Good evening, guys. Welcome back to my channel. Jake and I are got something unique and maybe last minute set up here for tonight. We're going to do a mock draft. I think we're going to do two versions of them, right?
Yep. We're going to do one no trades and then one with possibly trades involved, depending on how the board lands.
Yeah, we'll fire it up in a couple minutes. But what's the simulator again? A to Z Sports.
Yep, A to Z Sports is a brand new simulator. It's really cool. Go ahead and check it out. It's updated with, I believe, the consensus rankings currently, but really cool. They use AI to, create trades with other teams to make it more of a realistic situation or scenario. So it's really cool. But we're using that tonight for our Ravens mock drafts.
All right, man. Well, we also wanted to kind of use this as an opportunity Monday night to maybe preview or broadcast, or I don't know what the word is. Let people know that Thursday night, round one of the draft, we'll be live streaming. Assuming that I can get the functionality of StreamYard working properly for it, and we just briefly wanted to show what we'll be doing and what some other people will be helping us do. We have a live draft tracker that'll be updated. Every time that there's a pick, someone behind the scenes will be, entering the pick. And if there's a trade, the logo will change. So that'll be done, live according to each of the rounds, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'm going to be definitely streaming Thursday and Friday. And, hopefully it'll be a lot of fun and hopefully something that brings in the highest level talent possible for our team at 14 and 45, 80, if we stay there, I guess, right? We'll be staying there for the first one of these, right? Mock drafts that we're going to do.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to stick at 14.
All right. Let's show what you've got there. Forgive me for this. I'm trying to get. There we go. Now it won't flash us off. We'll go full screen once you fire it up. The idea is no trades here first.
Yep. First one, no trades. Second one, we'll see. We'll allow for potential trades.
Are we going to come to a consensus here for each pick, or do you want us to have a different, opinion on them?
If I was thinking we could go through the potential options and,
pick one. Got it.
Kind of, debate it out and see which one's the best fit. But yeah, a little collaborative effort there.
I like how this one looks. I'll be honest with you, I have not used this one. Yeah, just like most of the draft websites, there's a ton of ads, it looks like.
Yeah, that's the one downside to it. I just had an ad with volume on it, so I missed what you said there at the end. But
yeah, I saw it. That's the one thing I do enjoy about our site right now. I mean, I still use it and look at it every day for certain things that we don't have any ads on there yet, but at some point, I'm sure that we will. All right, you want to fire this one up?
Let's get it rolling. All right, so nothing crazy yet.
I mean, in most of my simulations, the Giants aren't getting, Reese and Love.
That would be something.
I mean, you'd have to give them credit if that's what they come out with, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. This would feel more realistic if this were 5. Reese isn't going to get past, this range of teams here. But to break it down real quick, Mendoza 1, David Bailey 2, Mauinoa 3. We got Styles at 4, Reese at 5 to the Giants, Baines 6 to the Browns. I would not like that at all.
Right.
Down 7 to Washington, Carnell Tate 8 to the Saints, 9 Chiefs go McCoy. Jeremiah Love falls to 10, Fano 11 to the Dolphins, Cowboys go Deline at 12, and then Jordan Tyson to the Rams at 13, which leaves the Baltimore Ravens up at 14 here. And some of the top options here, as you can see, Mekhi Lemon, Monroe Freeling, the tackle from Georgia, Vega Iwane, Penn State guard, Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon, Kendrick Falk, Peter Woods, Thieneman, and then we get down into the 20s here. Any thoughts off the top here, Coach?
I mean, for me, I would say of that first 6 that are there, 2 of them are off for me at 14. So Falk for me is off at 14. Not that I don't think a year or 2 down the road he's not going to be a really good player. I do think he's very slow off the ball as far as his get off, his reaction to the snap. Some of that could be what he's asked to do, but how do I say this? I'm not familiar with a defensive line technique that tells you to be slower off the ball on every snap. So that's a
Yeah.
struggle for me. So Falk for me is out at 14. Now, if it was a trade back and he's available at 24, 25, and we've got an additional top 45 pick, then that's a different story. So for me, Freeling as well is not a guy that I think the Ravens necessarily need. I'm really interested in Mekhi Lemon because, first of all, the film is fantastic, and he's a lot of fun to watch break tackles. How does that translate to the NFL? I mean, I do see some St. Brown in his game, a little bulkier, a little thicker, maybe. He's not a guy that I think 2 months ago I thought would even be there at 14 based on the film, but I guess this is the reality, right? Some of the foot speed, straight line speed, and then I guess the workout stuff.
Yeah, the top end speed. He had the weird press conference too at the combine, which I think some people were, rubbed the wrong way there. But on tape, he's an electric player, especially when he gets the ball in his hands. Doesn't have elite top end speed, as we mentioned, but his initial burst when he catches the ball, turns and gets upfield, it's outstanding. He's got fantastic hands. He's 5'11" and 1/8, 192, but he plays bigger than his size.
Yeah.
He's really solid in contested situations. He's got late hands. He's able to, kind of bait corners and defenders into leaning one way, going the other way. Great route runner, just a really reliable target. And I kind of view him as, the comps are kind of getting a little boring because it's the same ones, but it's the Amon-Ra's. We have Golden Tate here on our site as one of them.
That was a good one. I don't know who made that one, but that was a really good one.
Really, really good one. And I saw one on Twitter a couple weeks ago. It was if Mekhi Lemon is if Amon-Ra and Puka Nacua had a child. Really solid player. And I think I view him as a high volume, kind of short yardage guy that can get you yak yards, which is something that I value very highly. Being able to create after the catch. You get some of that with Zay Flowers. So I would not be upset with Mekhi Lemon here. But on the other hand, you're passing up on a plug and play, really strong, really solid offensive guard in Vega Ioane. So 100%. You kind of have to weigh those two. It's tough.
Depends on what the coaching staff sees or saw in Ioane with, they obviously went to the Penn State Pro Day directly and were involved. The film is a huge part of it. I don't think they were going to the Penn State Pro Day to learn anything. I think they were going there to confirm, really.
Right.
And in my opinion, he's probably the pick at 14 in this scenario. I am open to the people, however, who say, we can't get a starting caliber wide receiver like a Mekhi Lemon at 45, or certainly not 80, but we could draft a guy who could compete at guard or center, obviously at 45 and 80. I mean, the center picks are probably going to be between 80 and 115, right? I mean, all of the centers that are taken in this draft are probably going to go in that range, right?
Yeah, they'll be in our third round range. You see Slaughter down here at 82. To your point, though, I think what Lemon brings you on the field can be so impactful, especially in this new offense. Just giving the Ravens another dynamic receiver, and you have Zay Flowers. Obviously, I don't know what's wrong with Bateman, why he can't live up to his full potential. We've seen flashes of it constantly, but just the lack of production is obviously a thing now. He's in year 4. Agreed. So year 4, year 5. Either way.
I mean, there's
enough of a sample size, but yeah, go ahead.
My coaching thought, and also, I feel like I'd be hypocritical not advocating for Ioane here because I made such a big point about the offensive line for the better part of, I guess, almost 2 years, at this point, maybe a year and a half, whatever. And I think there's a lot of people out there who would call me out on that. So I'm unafraid, however, to say that I think Mekhi Lemon should be a serious consideration in this scenario. I don't think that Tez Walker or some of the other guys that we have behind Bateman or are going to suddenly give us a whole lot more of what we need. There's the difference between Mekhi Lemon and Tez Walker on film is huge. I'm talking about it coming out of college. Tez Walker went to North Carolina his senior year. Prior to that, I think he played in the MAC, and he was a good player, but didn't produce anything like Mekhi Lemon. My coaching background is going to tell me to take Awane here, but if my vote was overruled, if I was in the room and they took Mekhi Lemon, I'd be happy to.
I'd be pumped up. I know there'd be a lot of upset fans because, to your point, I'm kind of in that same boat. The offensive line has just been so poor the past year and a half, especially last year. But how much do you trust Emory Jones? How much do you trust John Simpson? Do you think that in round 2 there's going to be a what's his name? Emmanuel Pregnon? Is he going to be there? Is Chase Basantis going to be there? There's going to be options available. Jennings Dunker as well is a guy that is getting some buzz here lately. So
I'll be happy going with Awane here. I want to point it out that, Ravens fans shouldn't be surprised or disappointed if it's Lemon on 14 at 14. I love his tenacity. I love the way he plays the game. It would just depend on whether the Ravens front office / coaches have concerns about some of the other people, the things that so many people have talked about. I'm not going to advocate for picking Freeland, nor am I going to advocate for picking Sadiq, even though I really do like the talent. I don't think Sadiq is suddenly just an X receiver. I just don't see that at all. That transition is not easy, but hey, it's a tight end centered offense. And so if there was someone out there who advocated for Sadiq, and that's what Eric Decosta did, okay, we got a weapon, but that clearly reveals our hand at 45, which would obviously be offensive line. But let's go Awane here, because I think that sets the board up a little bit better the rest of the way. Do you?
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Now you can take a swing at something here in the 40s. We'll see how this unfolds here.
Proctor lasted that long. Wow.
Yeah. This one's had some interesting results when I've gone through it. All right, back up here at 45. Some of the recent ones here. Boston 33. That's interesting. I doubt he lasts till the second round. Ian Archer.
Agreed. Yeah.
He's a stud. Chris Bell. Chris Bell's a really talented player, wide receiver from Louisville.
Yep.
Big, strong, bulky receiver, but he has some really outstanding build-up speed, acceleration. I think Steve Smith actually really enjoyed watching him from a route running standpoint.
He's a guy that I've wondered if he'd be there at 45 because of the injury stuff.
Yeah, but then you have to consider, do we want to draft another injured guy? We've gone down that road way too many times here in the past. So
Who took Lemon, by the way?
Went 15 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That would be fun. Let's see here. 2 corners I really like here: Colton Hood and Chris Johnson. CJ Allen, Zion Young. I'm not that big of a fan of Zion Young.
Yeah, violent football player, great pursuit, great length, exceptional frame. I think he plays the game the way that I think we would enjoy as Ravens fans. I know I liked how violent he was. I think the pass rush is a steep climb for him, even though he's got the physical tools and the length. To me, it's a steep climb. But I understand the JPP comparisons among other guys. I think someone had him comp to Carlos Dunlap, I think was one of them. And, I don't think he's necessarily the same talent. I mean, Dunlap was amazing talent coming out of Florida.
Yeah, he was outstanding.
But good player, Zion Young, I think for the Ravens at 45 is an option. I just don't, I think there's going to be some guys out there who could maybe have more impact.
You certainly have to consider him here, especially since he has the combination that you want as an edge rusher: the height, weight, length, speed, physicality. So he would definitely be a consideration if available. But he goes here to the Bengals at 41 as they continue to add to their defense. Which what a trade that was, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised by it. I was caught off guard. because you could draft Caden McDonald in the first round, and
Mhm.
some could say Caden McDonald's going to give you the same thing that Dexter Lawrence is. I don't think so. I think Dexter Lawrence is a real problem, and
Yeah.
I think maybe our first round pick is a little bit of a reaction to that. I mean, in reality, this year we want to bolster the interior offensive line. That's a possibility. Who do we
Mhm.
got here at edge? Yakas, Lawrence.
Yakas is the top available. Lawrence, who either is coming in to visit with the Ravens or already has completed a top 30 visit. I really like Lawrence's tape. He's a really solid, really good player.
Agreed.
Another guy that has the height, weight, length, speed, the ideal measurables. More, I can't justify taking this early.
Not at 45. No.
He's a pass rush only guy. He struggles against the run. He was taken off the field a lot on run downs, obvious run downs, which is a concern, especially having watched our defense last year with the struggles we had.
There's good talent there at edge right now at 45 to grab. I think most of that talent at 45 that we just had on screen a moment ago is not going to be there at 80.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of my favorites, and I think he's one of your favorites too, D'Angelo Pons. Man, he is a competitor. The size is what it is, but he's a damn good football player at the end of the day.
I said this to someone the other day. I was like, D'Angelo Pons reminds me of, some guys I grew up with who were, they were only 5'8", 5'9", but on the basketball court, as a guy who handled the ball a lot, as a point guard, I hated knowing that I was going against them. It's just awful, just awful. Smaller, quicker, elite hand usage, and then tenacity. And Pons just has all of that. He's very technical. If they took Pons here at 45, I wouldn't be disappointed. I'm not going to advocate for that, even though I really, really love the player.
Yeah,
here to be honest with you,
it'd be more of like a personal bias. We'd be cheering for it, but it probably doesn't make the most sense considering who else is on the board here.
I think this is about the right spot for Pons, but we've got Christian Miller, we got Malachi Lawrence's options, Gabe Yakas. It turns out I guess we could have taken Mekhi Lemon, maybe, right? And Pregnan would be sitting here, it looks like.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Brazel's another interesting one. Not a big fan of Lee Hunter. Might be a little too early to take Stowers here.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Christian Miller.
Christian Miller's one of my favorite players in the draft to watch film of.
Yep. You're getting a strong run defender. Doesn't have a lot of production as a pass rusher, but he's a big athletic guy who is not going to get pushed off the line of scrimmage much. So if you want to reinforce the defensive line, the trenches, there's an option there. And then I'd take Lawrence over
Yakas.
Some of these other guys. Yeah, Yakas.
I like Yakas because he's apparently, I think, a 1 or 2-time state champion wrestler.
Interesting.
I think he's also young.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he redshirted at all. So if that's a factor for some people, I know that Falk is the youngest of the edge rushers, right? He's still 20.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to vote for Christian Miller here, but I wouldn't have a problem if you wanted to pick Malachi Lawrence or Yakas. The only thing I would say about those two is I feel like we do have in T-Rob and Mike Green and Trey Hendrickson. I feel like we do have great options there.
Mm-hmm.
What I would love to happen is us to be able to take Christian Miller or someone, if you wanted to take a receiver and then grab a Jayshawn Barham later on. But it looks to me, just math-wise, Barham's probably not going to be there later.
Yeah, I think on this board, he's a little lower than 95.
Let me enlarge that. So.
Potentially there at 80. I agree with you, Christian Miller. We've made such an emphasis on trying to rebuild the trenches this offseason,
Yes.
And this would be just check that box off right away with your first 2 picks, grabbing Ioane and Christian Miller here.
Safeguards us if Matabike is
correct.
Is unable to go, unfortunately.
Yep.
So I would be fine with that, with a caveat that, again, as with Lemon at 14, that I would be okay if someone said I'd like to take Malachi Lawrence, or Yakas, but I really like Christian Miller.
Yeah, I do too. We'll go with Miller here, but I'd definitely consider Brazel here too. He's just a vertical threat who can play above the rim.
100%.
Good hands. He's real fluid for a guy his size too. But yeah, we'll go with Christian Miller here.
I think we're banking on the tight end depth being available in the. I think here you and I are banking on the tight end depth being available, and the corner group we've expired some of that talent. We've watched some of it go by, so this will be interesting to see what's here.
Yeah, and you got to consider the fact that we have Bilal Cohn coming back and Robert Longerbeam, and those are two guys. I really loved Cohn last year.
Yes.
Didn't really get into the Longerbeam tape much, but apparently he was a guy that the Raven scouts really, really liked. So we have the top guys right now. Wiggins, Humphrey, Awuzie. They will probably add another veteran, I would imagine, going into camp. And then let's see how these young guys come back from their injuries and see how Minter is able to develop them and get them ready into year two. We saw what he did in LA with Tarheeb Still and Cam Hart. So
surprised at all here that Rodriguez and Moore. It looks to me like Rodriguez and Moore are still on the board, right?
Yeah, that's quite the fall for him. I really like Jacob Rodriguez just because he forces turnovers, and that's something that we haven't been able to do, especially in big games. And if you look at the future, like the health of the linebacker room, who knows if Roquan's going to be around much longer. Simpson has shown flashes at times, but he's a question mark.
Yep.
And
then you got
Buchanan injured. Yeah. So I'd be open to him. Is it time to address center potentially?
What's the receiver group look like?
Skylar Bell, Brennan Thompson, fun tape. If you're looking for a very tiny, undersized receiver, but can absolutely fly and stretch a defense, he's a really fun player to watch. Not a fit for us in Baltimore, right. I'd say. Bryce Lance, 97th overall. I think he has the potential to rise up and get selected higher than what his consensus ranking is, just because he has the size and the speed. Another guy with really fun tape. His ability to accelerate in the open field is
scored 15 touchdowns in 2024. I mean, and then the quarterback they had that NDSU had for 2025 was prior to that he had been pretty much a run threat. So I really like Bryce Lance. I like Bryce Lance better than a lot of other people do.
Yeah, I do too. Edge-wise, currently, Derek Moore, obviously we touched on. Joshua Josephs. Little slight for an edge. He's a pass rush only guy, but he's got the quickness, the acceleration, the pass rush upside there. LT Overton, I think, is kind of in that Tavius Robinson mold. Just
agreed.
Going to be a solid run defender. Barham.
Wow. He's one of my favorites in this draft. I have to get this out. I mean, Barham, the ability to play inside linebacker and edge defender is appealing to me, because I look at it a little bit like Malik Harrison in that on game day, you could maybe keep another player active, make another player active, on the offensive side, because you had one defensive player accounting for two position groups. Now, would that be too soon to ask that of Jayshawn Barham? Maybe, but he does. I mean, a lot about him, obviously, because he's a Maryland guy. He went to Maryland, right? And then went to Michigan.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm a huge fan.
I am too. Having that positional flexibility, being able to have a guy who can play both inside and outside is huge. And, with Mike Green and Hendrickson and Tavius, you might not need him to play significant snaps early on.
Right.
Remember, Jayshawn just started playing full-time reps at edge this past year. Like, I think week 3 he became, full-time on the edge. So he has the upside, the untapped potential there. Good size, good bend, a really athletic guy, good against the run.
I'm reminded for him. I'm reminded of something that I've heard Kirby Smart say in a drill that he called the Millennial Oklahoma. It's like a perimeter drill. It's like 3-on-3 or 4-on-3. So it's like trips to the field and 3 or maybe 4 defenders to the field. Sometimes there's a back involved. So sometimes it's 3-on-4, sometimes it's 4-on-4. And he calls it Millennial Oklahoma. And he's like, these guys, talking about the offense, these guys want the ball. And he points like over at the defensive guys, or maybe he highlights them on screen and says, these guys want to knock the shit out of somebody. And like Jayshawn Barham to me is he wants to knock the shit out of somebody. Like
big time motor.
I'm just enamored with his film, and I think many other people are too. We're at pick 80 here. I think this is about the right spot, but I recognize that center. I mean, if we go guard, D tackle, center to start here, we've really gone after and hammered the offensive line and the defensive front as well. This is a tough choice for me.
If we do go center here, it'll tell me that Decosta clearly has heard the fans' displeasure with the performance in the trenches this year. I'm just trying to pull up the top centers on Dave Brugler's board here.
I think Steve Bisciotti said it. I think Steve Bisciotti echoed it, and I think he did it in a quiet manner that I think was heard. I hope was heard. I mean, I hope it was. If not, we're going to be in the same place a year from now.
For sure. So Brugler has Jake Slaughter number 1, Sam Heck number 2, Logan Jones. I think you can wait until
the 4th
up next. Yeah, 115. You're risking it for sure, but it's tough to pass up on a guy like Barham with the pass rush upside. 3 down.
What's corner look like?
Nothing too
I really like Dalen Everett. I like Dalen Everett a lot.
Jennings is a good player.
Yeah, he's a good player. How about all the big guys like Hezekiah Massis? He's there.
Yep.
The Washington guy. Wow.
Early day 3, I would imagine.
There, right?
Yeah, because they're scheme specific guys because of their height. Yeah, Abney's a little undersized. Nothing really jumping off the page for me here. I'm good to go Barham here if you're down with that selection.
I mean, yes. The only thing for me is here. If I was walking out of day 2, because that's where we are here, right? We're at the end of round 3. If I'm walking out of day 2 and I've got Christian Miller, and if the Ravens staff thinks that Jake Slaughter is the guy, I'm not willing to make a statement there one way or the other. So for me, taking Slaughter here would just be taking the best or highest rated, center. I don't have a problem with Slaughter either, to be honest with you.
I think about it too. Who's going to make more of an impact this year? Barham or Slaughter? Slaughter, you can plug him in at starting center right away and you address a need. Barham is more of a, I don't want to say luxury, but kind of a developmental pass rusher who can also play inside, but we have starters there currently. So how much is he really going to get on the field?
Yeah.
I think
compared to Simpson, right?
Yeah.
Because Buchanan is, I know there's talk of Buchanan being ready early. I'm not sure how that works out. Like just because of his injury, it doesn't seem like to me the timeline there is realistic. I think, so I'm fine going Slaughter. I mean,
I think this would be the smart play. Addresses a significant need. Let me pull up his measurements here.
If Barham's here in the 4th, just click the button.
Exactly. What do we got? 6'4" and 7'8", 304. Yeah. It's so important to address the trenches in this draft, or the remaining.
We believe in Lamar Jackson. We believe in Lamar Jackson. Now we haven't added any weapons here for him. We haven't, but if you create time and space for Lamar Jackson, I think those of us who believe in him, we'd be happy to do that. I guess if we could rewind time and we took Mekhi Lemon first, then we could have gone Pregnon at 45, and then 80 could have still been Jake Slaughter. But we wouldn't have had a Christian Miller. I think we don't know what Nnamdi Madubuike's situation is or the reality is. So I personally think he's coming back. I do. I think he's coming back to play football. It's also possible that he plays football for 5 weeks and then ends up sitting out for whatever reason. So I like what we have here with respect to the offensive line weakness and the relative the inability to be sure of what we've got at interior defensive line, even though we, I know we brought in DJ Reader, but he's also gone on other visits at this point. So
yeah, we'll see
All right.
about him. With this current situation, this would make a lot of fans happy, or at least feel at ease with the current situation, current lineup. All right, so pick 115. Demings goes 114. Emmett Johnson's coming on a top 30 visit to Baltimore.
Running back from Nebraska. Let me go full screen. Sorry,
Yep.
It's probably too small for people.
Nick Singleton, interesting player, Penn State.
Yeah.
757 kid down in Virginia Beach. Jude Bowery, love seeing his name pop up. He's
the tackle, right?
Yeah, Maryland born. I forget exactly where he's from, but we were heavily involved in his recruitment at Maryland. Ended up going to Boston College, but he would be an ideal swing tackle guy, kind of that Macari mold. Athletic enough to play tackle, probably moves into guard. Wouldn't mind him. I'm surprised he's this early.
Like, check out the offensive line that is that's been drafted. I mean, like the last probably 20, 25 picks. You don't have bad quality here, if you ask me, when you're talking about Zune.
I like Zune too.
You really don't have Dalen Everett went off the board to the Raiders. That's interesting because they've already got Porter that they drafted last year. I mean, you really don't have
Seattle here.
Yeah. Parker, that's a center, right?
Yeah, smart kid, really smart, competitive. Logan Jones goes 90 here. So yeah, we
didn't make a bad choice, but you don't have a bad selection of players at the offensive line that were taken just before you here at 115. So
right,
with all the picks that we have, if we didn't address center, theoretically the Ravens in this scenario, the Ravens could have traded up. I like what we've got here. So all right, what are we looking at? Receiver, corner, because I feel like we got to go there at some point.
So hit D tackle, hit interior offensive line at both center and guard. So we're looking, edge wide receiver, potentially a swing tackle, but I think, that would kind of get a little repetitive with the offensive line selections here.
I'd like to look at tight end and see what we have available because I love this tight end class.
We saw a bunch of them just go off here. Joe Lee. Yeah, that would be my selection if we had to go with a tight end here. Let me see. We'll just take a look at the tight ends first, talk about some of these guys. I haven't watched much of these guys. I know you did the breakdown on Cuevas. Probably too early for him here in the fourth, but any guys that stand out, potential targets here?
Royer went to Ohio State and I think went back to Cincinnati. I think he's a Cincinnati guy, but I could be wrong. Like as far as where he went to high school, quite productive. I really like if he's available, Raridan later. I think it's a different type. If you were to ask me what I'd like to come out of this draft with from a tight end standpoint, I'd say it'd be great to get an athletic tight end who could catch the ball, but additionally a young tight end who could block. Basically, another another tight end along the lines of Charlie Kolar.
Right.
And I really like Raridan, to be honest with you. I think Raridan is one of the best blocking tight ends in this draft. He might be the best blocking tight end.
Which is huge.
6'6", yeah. ACL injury as a high school senior, ACL injury as a college freshman. So that limited his production to the last 2 years. So catching-wise, it's not there. I would be totally comfortable with going Joe Lee here. I'd still like to see what's there at wide receiver and corner.
Yep, we'll take a look at that real quick. So Bryce Lance, the top guy on the board, Kevin Coleman, Jacoby Lane, Caldwell. This is where I kind of have a drop off here from Caldwell down.
I do like Stribling a little bit. I'm not. Where's our next pick at?
We are done in the fourth round after 115. So fifth round. I think we've got 4 picks in the fifth round.
It's going to be a whole lot more
but we're
fun.
Just going up to 4.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole lot more fun, I think, to do one where there's trade backs, so we get another pick in maybe this range or even before 115. In a trade back scenario. So, I like Joe Lee. I like Lance as well. I'm not sure that Lance gets on the field for us in 2026, but who knows with that kind of athletic ability.
Mhm.
Where are you at with tight end and what we should address here versus waiting to the 5th round? Because Jolie certainly won't be there, and I doubt Raritan will either.
Yeah, two guys, and I'm kind of going rogue on I'm reading some of these Dane Brugler's prospect rankings and some guys that I have on my list. Two guys that stand out to me in terms of tight ends. Nate Borkircher, I believe I'm saying his name right there.
Mm-hmm.
Brugler has him ranked as his 8th tight end, one spot ahead of Raritan. Reliable blocker, enough receiving talent. And then this one is an interesting one as well. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, but
that's the second tight end at Ohio State, right?
Yeah. And he's been a late riser here lately. As you can see, the current ranking 302.
A good player.
Yeah, really good player. I'd probably wait till the 4th round to take him, but he's a guy that I'd keep an eye on if you're a Ravens fan, as far as, that potential second tight end that we go with. But if you kind of want to replicate the Isaiah Likely role and the type of athlete that he was, Jolie is definitely your guy here.
Yeah, I think it comes down to what the Ravens see out of the tight end position, Jolie specifically, versus like a Lance or a Dijon Stribling.
Mm-hmm.
What's edge defender look like? Because we haven't touched that at all.
Josephs keeps on falling.
Good player.
Yeah.
Little inconsistent. I think sometimes plays a little high. You
Mm-hmm.
see some snaps of Joseph's, and me. I saw a couple of snaps, and I was like, wow, he looks a little bit like Clowney. And when I say Clowney, I don't mean college Clowney, because I feel like Clowney in the last 2 or 3 years in the NFL I feel like he's actually lost a little bit of weight. He looks thinner to me. Could be a jersey thing too, those single-digit jerseys.
Yeah.
So I get it with Joseph's that people are frustrated by the inconsistency. I think you got talent there. I like Jolie here. I wouldn't have a problem, talking about other positions. It's up to you.
Take one last look at the full board here. Rutledge, really good player. We've already addressed center here. Not a big fan of Crown over Lance. You could talk me into that just because of the upside. The side speed, stretch the field.
I mean, to me, comparing him to Walker, I think Bryce. I'm just talking about college film. I'm not talking about right now comparing rookie Bryce Lance to Walker, but comparing college film from their last year or two, Bryce Lance is a better player.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Granted, the talent level that he supposedly went against wasn't as good, but NDSU is a serious football program. I love Jaden Kennedy's film. He's a battler. And apparently, I went on Ken's show a couple of weeks ago, I guess, and we were talking about safeties. And I brought up Jaden Kennedy, and I think he said something like, he was like, I hadn't really done any data on him. And he went and looked it up real quick, and he was like, oh, wow. Like Ken's really big and sharp with how often the player's been targeted and how often they've given up completions and, the completion, the passer rating against and all that. And if I remember correctly, Ken real quick was like, oh, wow, his is really exceptional. So I like Kennedy, but I think he's a guy that's there a whole lot later. I'm a huge fan of some of the DBs in this draft that are the nickel type guys.
Yeah. Kennedy too. I was listening to James Foster talk about him as a, day 3 guy that he really likes. Positional flexibility, versatility. He played a little bit of safety last year, towards the end of the year, played nickel. And then I believe 2 years ago, he has a ton of film of him playing on the boundary outside. So you can move him around. He's capable of doing that. Size, again, with a lot of these nickel corners, is going to be
kind of reminds me of Keon Martin, a little bit more athletic, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
Thicker and stronger. So I'm comfortable with going Jolie here, and I'd be really happy to get another 4th round pick in our next, in our next iteration of this.
Yep.
Is that Rutledge that went to the Lions, and Lance went to the Lions as well? They got 2 4ths. I'm gonna go full screen with that so we can recap it. Yeah.
Yep. So pick 14, Vega Iwane, 45. Address the trenches again with Christian Miller, once again hitting the trenches with Jake Slaughter at pick 80, and then Justin Jolie at 115, adding a dynamic, athletic tight end to the room. Some of the picks that went after us: Joseph right after us, Kieran Crawford's a pretty solid player too. I got to watch a little more of his tape, but
the other Auburn edge.
Scrouth, solid player. Lance to the Lions. Yeah, there you go. Like that one. Taco Davis is the one that we like.
Yeah, all those big. Cole Payton went in the 4th to Miami. He's a super athletic guy. Cole Payton was like prior to 2025. He's like a this is a poor comparison, I guess, but he's almost like a Tim Tebow light. And the reason why I say that is he's a left-handed quarterback, not necessarily known as a thrower, but very athletic and an exceptional runner and strong, broke tackles. And so then this year he was their primary quarterback. And I think his touchdown to interceptions was pretty good. But when I watched the NDSU film, I did feel like this past year, Bryce Lance's opportunities were, how do I say it, a little bit impacted by the quality of quarterback play that they had there. I like what we've got. I mean, we addressed the trenches, which is what I know both you and I have talked about being a huge factor. I think Christian Miller gets on the field for this team in 2026, and Iwane and Slaughter do as well. And Joe Lee probably, finds the field some as well behind or alongside Andrews, maybe on some 2nd and 8s.
And to talk a little more about Joe Lee, I like to factor in a little bit when I do these, the health of positions, kind of looking into the future and seeing what you have. We talked a little bit about it earlier with the linebackers. Andrews is coming to the end of his career. He's obviously taken a significant step backwards, both in production and in athleticism and everything that goes with that. And then you have Smythe on the 1-year deal, and that's pretty much it. It's a light room right now. So you add a guy who you're going to have in the room for the next 4 years. He's got upside as an athletic, vertical stretching tight end. I would really like this scenario if it were to play out this way.
100%. I love going backwards a little bit. I love the options that were there at 14. And I think it very much simulates the decision that the front office is going to have to make. Do we solidify, strengthen the offensive line? Adding on to or spinning what you just talked about with tight end room, that's why some of the people who talk about Sadiq at 14, I don't have a problem listening to those people, and I don't have a problem understanding their position, because we would get Sadiq on a rookie contract, and he would clearly help solidify that group. Basically, we wouldn't have to draft tight end as early later on. You could certainly go tight end in round 5. I do wonder, if that tight end group isn't going to be, exhausted somewhere in that range. What do we got left there? We're not going around 5 in this scenario, but what would be there was
Andrews, Raridan. I think Raridan probably goes a little earlier. Colesial.
Agreed.
Belly's a pretty solid player. I liked what I saw from him. Cuevas, like him. Klein, Borkircher. So there's still options there. This guy's he's a fun player right here. No,
the Indiana guy he's number 37 or 39 or something like that. Yeah.
So there's options out there.
Lake McCree's a good football player, more of a passing, receiving type. I think Bredeson's more like a fullback type, isn't he?
Yeah. Yep.
So just to the point that I was making, I can't fault people for saying, "Hey guys, I wish you had taken Makai Lemon at 14, or I wish you'd taken Sadiq at 14," because we were trying to. I think Bateman is under contract for another 3. Is it 2 years or 3 years that he's under contract for?
It's at least 2.
Yeah, and the Flowers situation is interesting. So hey, maybe it's time for the front office to address wide receiver with some serious talent. I like Makai Lemon. I'm willing to say that, hey, I just don't know about the concerns with his. I don't even want to use a word like character. Like, that's not cool to me. I don't know anything about that.
Right.
So it's up to the front office and the research they've done. I wouldn't have a problem starting it off with Lemon and branching off the draft, in a different direction to start. I wouldn't have a problem with Sadiq. I'm glad we did Iwane, though, because we really hit the trenches hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that mock draft really turned out well for all of those Ravens fans that are insisting on attacking the trenches. All right,
Lamar Jackson So it turned out well for, so it turned out
exactly.
well for.
He's smiling. All right. So mock draft number 2 here. This one we are considering trades. So break it down, kind of the same situation. Tate goes 7 to Washington, Tyson 8 to New Orleans. Kansas City gets Delane. Jeremiah Love falls to 10 again. I don't see that happening. I've actually heard he's probably going somewhere in this range, 3 to 5.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
I also don't think, from what I've heard and read, Bain's falling far at all either. So
agreed.
Downs to 13, and here we are at 14. So Fano is the top available. This would be a great selection because it gives you that flexibility, the position versatility. You can play him at center guard and have him as your swing tackle as well. Jamal McCoy, Awane still here, Sadiq, Falk. I still like Peter Woods, man. I know he had a bad year this year, but
Week 1 film looks spectacular. I mean, very disruptive. They got some issues there with Clemson's defense, in my opinion, about consistency with how the inside linebackers fit stuff, because there's some plays where Peter Woods is like totally winning his rep, and then the linebackers just aren't there. Before we look at the trade offers, where are you looking? Where are you hoping that we get a trade back offer to? Like what range?
Not too far back, because I think we're kind of already in that range where you could take any of these guys and it wouldn't shock a lot of people. Just depends on how people stack their boards. Ideally, I'd like to stick somewhere in this range, the 23, 24, probably in the ceiling there. So let's see what we got here, trade offer wise. Browns offering 24.70 and 146 to move up, and that is the highest value in points there.
Wow.
Chiefs offering 29.74 and 109. So you get another, borderline top 100 pick. But you're sacrificing, 5 more in the first round. I'd entertain this one.
Like I was going to say, I feel like if it weren't the Browns, if that weren't the Browns, then you would take it. So realistically, I wonder if that would not be, if that call wouldn't even be taken or fielded when they saw the area code. Let's take the Browns one because it's better value, right?
Yeah, I think Decosta, especially in this year's draft, getting that 70th pick, adding another, what is that, early 3rd round? There's going to be some really quality players still available, and so we'll accept.
The Chiefs one was good too. I mean, I'm a fan of that one because it was the 3rd pick was 109, right? I mean, that was shocking. Okay, so we're at 24 now.
All right, so the Browns ended up trading again, which is hilarious. Fano, Sadiq, Awane, McCoy, Thiemann, Omar Cooper, Falk, Lomo, Woods, and Concepcion.
Me personally, there's 3 or 4 players there. I'm not going to name necessarily who they are that I'm not interested in drafting in the first round. So I feel very comfortable with our trade back because I feel like I kind of feel like some of the guys that are there are guys that we would be content with, maybe not at 14, but at 17 or 18.
Right. Yep. So available at the moment. We've got Caden McDonald is the one that pops off the screen for me. Terrell, probably a little too early for him, in my opinion. I mean, we just went through the Daniel Falele experience at guard. I don't want another 6'7", 6'8" guard that, has balance issues, especially in this new offense.
Agreed.
Messidor, he makes a good case to come in and be a disruptive pass rusher.
He's a lot of fun to watch his film. Very advanced compared to the other guys. But, of course, he's been in college longer. I don't necessarily fault him for one of the injuries. And a lot of people don't necessarily understand. He started his career at D tackle.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing D tackle at West Virginia, I believe, his true freshman season. So I'm a big fan of Messidor. I don't know that I want to pick him, even though I'm a fan of his game.
Yeah, it would make it a crowded room. You want Mike Green and Trey Hendrickson out there.
Yep.
On 3rd downs, rushing the passer. And I don't think he's that strong of a run defender to really justify taking him and saying he's a 3-down guy. But he's a violent pass rusher. So
Absolutely.
I would consider him, but he's probably lower. Boston is an interesting fit. I mean, he's another guy, I believe he came here on a top 30 visit. Big, long receiver with great hands.
Yep.
Moves really well, too.
Just to double check, we're sitting on 24. And what's the next one?
We have 24, 45, 70 now, 80, and 115.
Love it. And I feel like, we can – let's do this a different way if you want. I mean, we can be a little bit less assertive or leaning towards offensive line and D tackle if you want to go with a position type player here at 24. I'd be comfortable doing this a different way.
Let's see, are there any guys down here that I think the guy who's lowest on this list that could be in play here at 24 is Boston. Agreed. Really like his game. Yeah, it kind of like ties the room together too. He's more of your traditional boundary, would basically plug in right away into that DeAndre Hopkins role as the possession receiver, red zone target.
Means we're probably going O-line at 45.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think
I do wonder about the defensive tackle depth in this draft. I think it's very different. I do like some of the defensive tackles. I would say that Christian Miller is a defensive tackle, but I just don't think this draft at all is like last year's draft for D tackle.
Yeah.
So I don't think the depth extends as far. What does it look like for D tackle here besides Caden McDonald? Just trying to plan ahead for pick 45.
And I really like Caden McDonald. He would probably be my personal number one choice here. And then Boston 1B. If Caleb Banks didn't have the recurring foot injury, he's a top 15 player in this draft without a doubt.
Why don't we say that we're going to do D tackle later? Why don't we say we're going to do D tackle at 80 or 115 and then see how this works out?
So do you want to go?
Yeah, let's go Boston.
Edge Boston. Cool.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit early.
That's all right. It gives Lamar another target on the offensive side, so I'm cool with it. All right, so that stinks. Besantis and Pregnon go right before, and Christian Miller. That's just.
I see that.
It's like they knew we wanted them.
It's like the AI was listening to us.
Yeah, they probably were. All right, so already went wide receiver.
We hedged our bets, and it blew up in our face a little bit. Let's see what O-line looks like.
Dunker is probably the best option here.
Yeah, different.
I can't get over his hair, man. He's a funny looking dude, but he's a really good player and really athletic. So I could see him going here at 45. Is there anybody? Malachi Lawrence would be tough to pass up, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we're going the other way here totally. We hedged our bets on O-line, and I didn't think that Besantis and Pregnon would both go here, but they did. So this is the quandary for the Ravens front office, right? That they, if you don't do it with your first pick, then do you get left out in the cold by the time you get to 45? I'll be honest with you. I don't think this happens. I do feel like there's going to be some better options. I'm not sure that I'm not saying I don't like Jennings Dunker. I just didn't see a guy that I'm willing to go for 45.
I agree. Yeah. I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's a top 50 player in my opinion.
So if we go Lawrence here, then we're just pushing back, D tackle and O-line obviously until we got 70 and 80.
Yep. So
let's do it that way. Yeah, let's do it that way and see how it works out.
Let's get weird with it.
Well, I think this is illustrative of what the scenario could look like for our guys in the front office. Wow, Elijah Surratt's still there at 70.
Jeremy Bernard as well, but we already hit wide receiver. Edge we're good on. Let's see. So top tight end Max Clare.
Love his game.
I
Love
do
his
too.
game.
And the production wasn't there, but when you're on the same field as Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, you're obviously going to be
Agreed.
down the list of top
Love his
targets
game.
there.
Are you able to see where a particular player went? I'm interested in Traydon Stukes.
Traydon Stukes.
Here he is. Yeah, he's right there. It's down at the bottom. Texans.
Yep.
That's the third time I've seen a mock have him. Yeah, but they've still got Jalen Petre.
Yeah, true. Very true.
And he's their dedicated nickel, so I'm not sure how realistic that is.
Once again, the AI figured out that we were gambling on the D tackles and go Halton and Orange there. But let's see here. Claire.
Is Keelan Rutledge still available, interior offensive lineman?
Yes, he is. He's a guy that I would feel comfortable going here.
Yeah,
just to make sure to solidify that guard spot.
All the centers still on the board?
Center wise, I believe so, yeah. I mean, we could go Slaughter here since he's the higher rated player, and then hope that in 10 picks Rutledge is still there if we wanted to do that again.
D tackle.
I think just D tackle. Let's see, Daryl Jackson. Interesting player, good size, but just inconsistent.
Keenan's a nose tackle to me.
He is, yeah. He's a space eater.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of your early day 3 guys.
Yeah, I'm not
I like McClellan though.
Agreed. McClellan's athletic, not necessarily as fundamental with double teams necessary, but I feel like he's very quick.
If I remember correctly, he's kind of in that 3 tech mold, right?
Agree. That's what I think. Yes, I think he's more of maybe along the same lines in some ways as like a Grayson Halton, more of a, I don't want to say penetrating D tackle, but I feel like McClellan is a little more aggressive across the line.
Yeah, disruptor.
I didn't think he was as good on double teams, so I'm not super happy to wait on D tackle if we go something else 70 and 80, but. I feel like we've upgraded the weapons here, so I feel like we need to go offensive line, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think just once again, considering the fact that we don't have a center. Well, we have the Pinter or whatever his name is from the Colts, but he's hopefully just a camp body.
I'd be happy going Slaughter or Rutledge here, either one.
Yep, I'm going to go Slaughter here just because of the importance of getting a quality center in the building. And once again, Rutledge off the board right before we go. How about that? All right. So this is where off the quick read here.
That's great.
Claire, Mike Washington.
Halsey's a really good football player.
He another top 30 visit guy for the Ravens. Be interesting.
It'd be a little bit of overlap, I think, with Hawkins, who I think is exceptional. I think Hawkins, I was surprised. Hawkins' salary, I think it's 2 years, $10 million total.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's $5 million each. When I watched the film, I got to the 4th game of Hawkins, which was our game against the Patriots this year. And I was like, this is a great signing. So
for what we got him at too, I mean,
yeah,
outstanding.
I would love to go Max Clare here.
Yep.
If we hadn't already picked Boston, I do like Elijah Surratt, not just because I think he's from Northern Virginia, played at St. Francis, obviously. I really like his game. So,
like Devin Moore, he's a big long corner, moves pretty well.
Let me go full screen. Sorry.
Probably a little early for Zakee Wheatley, but I don't think if we're gonna go safety, we're gonna go Halsey, obviously.
Yeah, I like what we've done here. If we, if we go high level tight end talent, which I think Max Clare is, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The Purdue film looked a little. It looked like he was a little bit more target rich. Now we didn't. Our other pick that we got from the Chiefs was like 200 something, right? So it's not like we added another 4th.
Yeah, I think it was a 5th round pick.
I mean, 35. I'm sorry from the Browns. Sorry.
Yep. Here we are at 115. So far we've got Boston 24 in the trade down. We have Malachi Lawrence at 45, Jake Slaughter 70, and then Max Clare at 80. And let's see, Devin Moore goes right before us. I like Harold Perkins a lot too, man. He's undersized, but he's so fun to watch.
Yeah, plays really hard. He probably to me more looks like a will linebacker in the NFL.
Yeah.
Even though LSU played him as almost like a nickel to the field. So different job in the pros.
All right, so wide receiver, edge, center, tight end. We've got Burks, Barham's on the board.
Of course.
I mean, this would be a no-brainer, but let's do something different here with this one.
Yeah, we've taken an edge defender in Lawrence, and it would be fun to see Barham be a guy in purple in this scenario. I agree. I think we'd be better served looking elsewhere.
Yeah, I like Emmett Johnson too. His testing numbers were fantastic. Obviously, we all saw the combine with him. Good production. Depends on what they see with Justice Hill. I haven't watched much of his pass protection and third down value, but he's an interesting guy. Really like Demings from what I've seen so far. Drew
another boundary corner guy, right? I think.
Yeah. Yep. He's a long, tall. Yep. 6'3" 3/4.
Well, if we wanted to go defensive tackle here, I feel like it will be okay to look at guys that aren't pass rush guys here. I do think Keenan is a pretty good nose tackle type. I wasn't as high on Zane Durant as others, to be honest with you. So I would be fine with either one. I feel like McClellan would be more of a little bit of overlap with Peebles. Although me personally, I feel like McClellan might be a better. I'm not comparing him right now to Peebles. I'm comparing him to the Peebles film that I saw from college. I feel like McClellan might be a better player.
Mm-hmm. Let me pull up McClellan. Well, let's see. Yeah. So, are you looking for pass rush upside, like 3-down value, or do you want a stout run defender?
Exactly. And I feel like McClellan is more of like a Grayson Halton or like a Peebles, a guy who can get after the quarterback some. Let's assume that we're going to have Matabike for this scenario. I'm gonna push for a defensive tackle, but I know there's other good talent on the board here. If you go back to sort by all, I'm sure there's other better players than him.
Yeah, lots of defensive backs too. Keyshawn Elliott at linebacker, Billy Scrouth. Don't have that second guard, but I guess we're kind of going into this scenario with the mindset like it's going to be Simpson and Emory Jones and kind of address that backup guard situation later.
Yeah.
Cario Davis would be an interesting.
I wonder about him being available in the 5th. I'm not sure that he would be there for our picks in the 5th, but I've wondered if Davis makes it, he's got so much talent. So, I could certainly see him being off the board in the 4th, but I've wondered about him, how far he extends. I don't know. Something about Keenan I have liked the film more than others, though. I know there's people who have not. Really
and there's a certain Ravens front office executive who's going to be totally happy with this selection.
What's interior offensive line look like as far as, has that been, pretty much?
Yeah, Scrouth, I could see. This kid right here, Keegan Trask, he's the right tackle for Missouri. Really good player. I just added him to the board recently on Draft Signal. Don't have any write-ups yet, but I put the measurements in and stuff like that. But he's a guy that you and I definitely have to do a deep dive on because he's rising up the board. Little older prospect, but he's a really, really good zone blocker. And he's got the measurables too. I think he's 6'5", 320. Decent
I like the other Iowa guard better than Stevens. Well, I guess Dunker played some tackle, right? But
yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to go Troust, that'd be fine with me. I would like to address the trenches here one way or the other.
Yeah, I think Keenan just gives you that, insurance policy for John Jenkins at his age. How much gas does he have left in him? And it helps with the run defense too. So I'm with you here. We'll go Keenan. Wrap it
I,
up.
I guess my rationale to a certain extent would be, um, this might sound paradoxical. Part of me would like to get Matabike off the field on some first downs.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, and be able to, save him, I should say, subtract 40 or 50 snaps this year that are on 1st and 10s for him, even though he's exceptional against the run. That's when last year I knew something wasn't right. I saw 2 plays, things happened to him against the run that I've never seen happen before. So, that pick there for me, Keenan, I'd be okay if people were like, "Hey, I think you should address offensive line," especially how much I complained about the offensive line depth and commitment. So,
Yeah.
But in any case, you want to recap what we got there?
Yeah. So at 14, we traded with the Cleveland Browns, moved down to pick number 24, and we added pick number 70 and 146. We didn't obviously get to 146, but added in 70, give us another early 3rd round selection. Round 2 at 45, Malachi Lawrence. Round 3, pick 70, the Browns pick we took Jake Slaughter, addressed the center position with our 2nd, 3rd round pick. Address the tight end situation with Max Clare. And then round 4, go with the run stuffer, Tim Keenan, the 3rd from Alabama.
You want to leave that up? Because I am interested. I was just thinking, what if we had taken the Chiefs offer? That was for 29, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we would have gotten a 74 and 109, right?
Yep.
Well, 29, 74, and 109.
Yep.
So we would have had another pick before the Tim Keenan pick. And, if things would have played out differently, it makes me wonder if at 29 we wouldn't have gone with like Max Ahinachor or maybe, Denzel Boston, but somebody who could, theoretically play guard, but also serve as a backup tackle in the event that Ronnie or Rosengarten went down. So I think both of these flow-throughs or these options illustrate that the options at 14 are going to be plentiful. And so they are going to have my suspicion is the Ravens front office has probably already talked with whoever might call some 2 or 3 or 4 teams, but you never know in this day and age where, if you talk to the wrong front office, they might relay that information to someone else. So I understand there's a game within a game within a game.
Yep.
I do like this one. I think I'm maybe a little partial to the first one, even though Boston, Lawrence, and Max Clare, that really appeals to me as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think the first one is like a stabilizing group of players. You address both the offensive and defensive line, which has been our biggest issue the past 2 years. So being able to address that concern, I don't know. I would lean towards the first one as well. But with the amount of quality, you can see right here, like how many good players there are as you continue on down into the 2nd and 3rd rounds, and even into the 4th round.
And
if they do trade down, go ahead.
Yeah, agreed. If they do trade down, the key for me, at least in the simulations I've done, and this one that we just completed, is how many picks can we get back that are in? How many picks can we add? In the top, 100, 115, 120, somewhere in that range, and then use them smartly. I mean, maybe it's possible that someone might complain with our pick at pick 70 here, maybe Jake Slaughter being a little too early, but we feel like we've plugged in the center spot, and we feel like, I guess Simpson and Jones are going to be the guards. It does make me wonder, this particular scenario does make me wonder, have we built enough depth on the offensive line? So there's another universe that exists where you trade back and you use that to bolster the offensive line. For any team, I like this particular haul, the second version. But for the Ravens in 2026, I think I like the first option better.
Yeah, for 2026, the first
for our
option
team,
definitely better. Yep. I'm with you. Option 1 would be the route that I go. However, I would understand if they do trade down and they're able to acquire a couple more of those top 100 picks somehow, some way. depth is always a good thing to have. We saw
Yeah.
it in spurts over the past couple of years with, just undrafted guys playing too many snaps and guys off the street playing a lot. But yeah,
Gives us
I think we should be in the mindset that we are in a win now mode, and option one with Ioane and I forget who the first one was exactly. Christian Miller, and then Slaughter after that. That gives you, that improves your starters significantly more than this situation would.
I think I do like, from the standpoint of the defensive line. We did just watch the Seattle Seahawks use a rotating core of defensive linemen, and they did let Boye Mafe go. There was apparently a real possibility that DeMarcus Lawrence retired. I'm glad he didn't. But in any case, they had 6 or 7 really quality guys there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about interior plus edge defenders, maybe even 8. And so we've added 2 here. Malachi Lawrence is going to find some time on the field. So will Tim Keenan, for sure. And I think Keenan's has a better possibility of playing 18, 20 snaps a game than Aeneas Peebles from last year. I just don't know how Peebles finds his way on the field.
Yeah, that's the frustrating thing with Peebles, because he's fun to watch. He's super athletic, but his inability to play against the run hurts him. He can't get on the field, on obvious run downs or run situations, early downs. It's tough to say you're comfortable with him on the field in the event that they, do pull a run off.
I kind of, look at, when watching some of the Seahawks film in the playoffs and late regular season, Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy, those guys are outliers from the standpoint of Leonard Williams. He'd be on the field on 1st and 10. He'd be on the field on 2nd and 8, and he'd be on the field on 3rd and 6. And the energy level, the output was amazing. But what I think would be fantastic for the Ravens would be to build the interior depth and the edge depth as well, such that you were getting a fresh version of Trey Hendrickson on 3rd and 6.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about that too. Just being able, especially with, Travis Jones' injury history. Matabike obviously missed basically the whole year if he is back. Trey Hendrickson getting up there in age. Mike Green kind of still working him into, an every down player if he's ever able to. But being able to rotate guys in and keeping them fresh and putting guys into situations that they're able to succeed in is going to be huge. And I think we did a good job with that. Yeah,
I like this group of players, and I really like option or version 1 as well.
Yep.
It'll move quick. The good thing is the Ravens, after their just like every other team in the NFL, they're going to have the opportunity to regroup for the next day and kind of plan things out with what's on the board and what we've done. So, whether we go trenches or not in round 1, I'm partial to offensive line. I don't think that, some of the highest level defensive tackles are for us in this draft at 14. Peter Woods, Caden McDonald, even though, he's a good player, I don't think those guys are for us there at 14. But, there's in my opinion, there's better talent than a lot of people are giving credit for. We've tried to give you guys a serious look at 2 different scenarios, and we've created a website that's got a big board. And I think some of the rounds I have too many players in. I think the first round I have 35, and the second round I think we have 34. So it ends up evening out by the time you get done with the 4th or the 5th because of all the comp picks.
Yeah, I was looking at it earlier today. Still a bit of a work in progress, but for the majority, or for the most part, I think it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, we've got guys in his, some of these players, especially the bigger corners, the 6'4" guys, we don't have a player profile built for them, but we added, as many players as possible to the board, but we didn't rank them 1 to 200 or whatever. We just put them in the rounds where we thought they either should or would be selected. Probably Mesidor, like for example, in the edge defender group, Mesidor and Howe are probably not both being taken in round 1. I think it's more likely that one of those guys goes. But we tried to build as realistic a board as possible that people could use for their own purposes. I'll tell you straight up, next year we want to have a mock draft simulator on this website. And I don't know exactly how that happens, but I'm just going to put it out in the universe that that's what we would like to do. And we'd like for it to be something that's fun for people to participate in. I wish I had done more mock drafts. This will probably be the last one because it's Monday night.
Yeah, I know. I feel like a kid on Christmas counting down the days. The excitement level is through the roof. I'm so pumped up for it. But yeah, getting close. If you're around sometime this week, I'm always open to
I know
another one.
I think we spent so much time working on the website that for me at least reduced the amount of time that I had to devote to like a mock draft or something like that. It really curtailed it, but it was a lot of fun. There's zero complaints on my part. I mean, it just was something that was a lot of fun. And I think hopefully for all of us, but for myself, definitely will make draft night. I plan on streaming on round 1 and round 2. Round 3, I may go on. Round 4, 5, and 6 and 7. The day 3, I may go on Ken's show for a little while. But I love the streaming aspect on the draft. So if you guys are interested, feel free to join us. But there's going to be a ton of people that are streaming during the draft. So for Ravens fans, man, I would suggest dropping in on everybody's stream to give them a like and some comments and just support the people who spend a lot of time, not just myself, Coach Evans, Cole Jackson, Jason from Huddle It Up Films, Ken. I believe Ken is going to have a stream for round 1, among others. So if you guys enjoy this content, please give us a like, comment, to let us know, and give us suggestions for things to put out on draft night or things to include, because it's going to go by fast. Anything you want to add here at the end, Jake?
Nothing really. Yeah, I'm just pumped up for Thursday night and this weekend, and really excited. Looking forward to seeing what unfolds, especially early on with some of these trade rumors coming out now.
Did you take off work Friday?
No, I got stuck with that one, but
I know like four different people who have taken off work Friday, and
yeah.
I moved some of my clients from Friday to the next Monday to make it work, because I know I won't be sleeping. I know Thursday night I won't be sleeping much. So
yeah, definitely not. It's gonna be fun though. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here. So, well, thanks for hosting that and sharing your screen to do that. It was a lot of fun, and I get it. There'll be a lot of opinions on it. So if you guys have any suggestions for how to some things to include or incorporate for the draft, feel free to let us know. Like I said, we're going to be streaming and then trying to keep track of each draft pick on our website, draftsignal.pro. Appreciate you guys' time.